Okay, so another very important aspect that we need to start talking about with the Web API is the security, and also what's very important is that we are starting to get an idea of users who are using it. So in order to properly start implementing this part of the service, we need to do it with the user in mind, but we're not going to do the security yet, but we're going to set it up to where we can easily implement the security. So with Diary, we want to be able to collect data on per user basis. So basically we need to know about the current user that is using the API. So in order to do this, first thing that we need to do is we need to go ahead and add a new route for diaries, like so. So I'll go ahead and do that in code. So here we have two existing routes. In order to add a new one, we can just replicate this one, and we can call this one diary, our new one. And we'll change our route template here. It's going to be user diaries, and then our optional diary ID. We're going to create a new controller called diaries, and our diary ID right here is going to be optional. Spelling is crucial here, so it's very important to check and double check these. So here's our new route. Now we need to go ahead and add a new controller to it. So I created a new controller behind the scenes, inheriting from base API controller like we have to, and then pass our repo into our base API controller here. So the next thing that we do in our progression here is we can go ahead and create our get, and we can for now just give it an object, and this is going to be just an empty get because we're getting a list of our diaries. So now here what we need to do is we need to get a result, and what we're going to call here is the repository get diaries. However, we'll notice here the diaries needs a username. So this is where our tweaking is going to come in play of how we're going to get the user authenticated. You're not just going to pass the username. How we're going to get a user authenticated, and how we are going to do that without and still being kind of creating something that will be able to plug into the authentication. So one of the ways that this is done sometimes is by using this thread.currentPrincipleIdentity.name. If we put this in the code right there, it wouldn't be very testable. So what we want to do is we want to create a new service and pass it in through the controller using our dependency injection. So we're going to have a service on the side that we're going to create that is going to take care of our authentication and getting our user wherever we need it in application. So the first thing that we need to do this correctly is we need to go ahead and add a new folder and call it service. And inside of the service folder we add a new class, and we call it counting case identity service. So this class is basically for now going to hold one string variable that is going to just return the hard-coded username. I'll do that in a second. So I create a string called current user, and I'm returning Sean Wildermuth because that's what we have in a database, so that we can actually return some of these diaries. And now we can factor the interface out of this. Extract the interface, and there's our public interface. We don't have to do anything with it. It's pretty much created for our service class here, except what we have to do next is we need to go into our Ninject and add it here. So we bind our iCounting case identity service with our counting case identity service class. So we got that taken care of. So now we can go ahead and inject this into our controller up here for our diaries. So we say counting case identity service, call it identity service, and we create a field for it. So now we actually have our identity service here. We could go ahead and simply call it and call our current user. So we're now passing the current user to this get diaries. But what I want to do here is I want to use iQueryable of a diary so that I for now know what I'm doing. Call it a query, and then just do our actual query here. So now I know that I'm getting iQueryable list of diary object in my query, and then if I want to furthermore select from it in my result set here, I can say query to list select, and then I can do the link statement here to do the factory, and to go ahead and create our diary. And as you can see, this is complaining because we don't really have, first of all, the diary model or anything in a diary, anything about a diary in our model factory. So first thing we need to do is in our models, we need to go ahead and add. We need to add our model for a diary, call it a diary model. So our diary model is going to have two properties for our URL and current date. And then our factory itself, model factory, is going to need to have its own overload for our diary model create. takes diary, returns the diary model, and it uses the our diary route here to new up a new anonymous object that's going to have a diary ID, which is going to be the D that we passed, current date to string, and then we won't have a description and calories. Instead we're going to have only one more, and it's going to be current date, and it's going to be date time now. So now we went ahead and created our model factory for diary model, create our diary model itself, and then here we want to return something a little bit different. We want to go ahead and sort order by descending, and we want to order by current date. We also want to take 10 entries to list and then select. And then we want to go ahead and return our result. So this is our get for our when we're trying to return the whole list of diaries. And we can also change this now to INumerable diary model. And then we want to go ahead and create one down here for just diary itself, and this one will take diary ID, so I can also create a query here, and this is just going to be diary. Get diary, and this one takes username and a diary ID, so I can say current user and diary ID. Not integer, date time, a little confusing because ID is usually, I think of it as an integer. So we have our query, and then we say var result is going to be equal our query. Actually, here we're going to do the check for the if it's null. If query is null, in other words, if nothing comes back. And this is the crucial thing that happens here. If the query is null, we want to return something more meaningful than a null to our front end. And we create a response. And we use HTTP status code of not found. This is the art right here when we start using these correctly. And of course we can't really return that if we're returning the entity. We have to change the entity to HTTP response message. So if query is null, it's going to return not found. Otherwise, we're going to return, we're going to make a request, we're going to create a response, give it HTTP status code OK, and then we pass our the model factory create, and we send in our query, which is a model. So now we have, if nothing is found, we're going to have a nice 401 message, you know, that can front-end developers can use that to, you know, prompt you to make an entry, or just to know that, you know, the reason why it's null is because nothing is found, not because there's some kind of error. You know, we don't have to guess what's, you know, why is it null. So in order to run this, we can go ahead and do that. So we run API/user/diaries, and here is, you know, the list of diaries for this particular user that we have. And then if we click on this, we should get the individual diary. So basically this is how we prepare, first of all, for security, and then we're able to incorporate the user into our web API.